It's finally time to see the Packers' final 53-man roster, which was just put out on the Packers website, and I want to go through it right here with you guys. According to Wes Hodkiewicz, the Packers keep 11 defensive backs, and the initial 2025 roster marks an undrafted rookie streak reaching 21 years. Notably, quarterback Bo Melton makes the team after a position switch, which is awesome to see. The Packers reduced their roster to 53 players during NFL-mandated reductions on Tuesday, and Green Bay can start building its practice squad after the waiver process concludes at 11 a.m. Central on Wednesday. Here's how the initial roster for the 2025 season breaks down position by position via the unofficial depth chart, with players kept, released, or placed on the reserve list, along with more notes posted below. At quarterback, we have Jordan Love and Malik Willis. Releasing Sean Clifford and Taylor Eldman, not a surprise there, as it would have been surprising if the Packers decided to keep 3 quarterbacks. We'll see if either of those guys make it back, possibly to the practice squad, and personally, I want the Packers to keep Taylor Eldman, as I think he's a talented quarterback who could get better with more development. Moving to running back, we have Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson, and Chris Brooks, with Marshawn Lloyd on the injured reserve, designated to return, which is unfortunate for Lloyd, who, just like last year, is dealing with injuries again recently, leaving uncertainty about how long it'll be until he comes back. Those running backs are pretty much the same as last year, with Jacobs as number 1, Emmanuel Wilson very good as number 2, and Chris Brooks as number 3, with no real surprises there. At wide receiver, we have Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Matthew Golden, Malik Heath, and Savon Williams, with Christian Watson on the physically unable to perform list. The only uncertainty was who would be the final Packers receiver, whether it would be Mecole Hardman, Malik Heath, or one of the other guys, and it turns out Mecole Hardman got released, with Malik Heath getting the spot over him. I do think Malik Heath brings more as a blocker than Mecole Hardman, and if the Packers had known, they'd be drafting the wide receivers in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. I feel they wouldn't have felt the need to bring in Mecole Hardman, especially given Christian Watson's injury, which makes it all sort of make sense. Other rookies released include Mecole Hardman, Julian Hicks, Cornelius Johnson, Will Shepard, and Isaiah Nah. At tight end, we have Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, John Fitzpatrick, and Ben Sims, with Messiah Swinson and Johnny Lumpkin released, which isn't a major surprise. For the offensive line, the players making it are Elgton Jenkins, Aaron Banks, Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker, Sean Ryan, Jordan Morgan, Anthony Belton, Darian Kennard, and Donovan Jennings, with Kennard being a player the Packers just traded with the Eagles for a 2027 6th-round pick, a guy who's been in the league a few years but has barely played, though the Packers clearly felt they needed depth and were willing to trade a 6th-round pick, valuing Kennard as such. Unfortunately, rookie John Williams was placed on the PUP list due to injury, and Jacob Monk is also dealing with an injury. I feel that with Aaron Banks healthy, the Packers' starting offensive line should be fine, but the question is whether they can sustain 1 or 2 injuries along the line, and with the trade for Kennard, they're probably satisfied with their depth now, having released Kadeem Telford, Trey Hill, Alessa Smith, Tyler Cooper, J.J. Lee, and Brant Banks. At defensive end, we have Rashan Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Kingsley Enagbare, Brenton Cox Jr., and Baron Searle, with Colin Oliver on the physically unable to perform list, and Aaron Mosby and Deslin Alexander released. I thought Deslin Alexander had a really good preseason and could have snuck onto the roster due to his consistency, but they went with 5. For defensive tackle, we have Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, Colby Wooden, Warren Baton, and Nazir Stackhouse, with the undrafted player streak staying alive through Nazir Stackhouse, who could be a replacement for T.J. Slatton, a big guy solid against the run who signed with the Bengals, while Stackhouse has been really good throughout training camp and felt like a roster lock among undrafted players, which is pretty cool to see. The Packers released James Esther and Avoni Ali. At linebacker, they only keep for Key Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie, and Tyron Hopper despite my expectation of 5, with news earlier today that Isaiah Simmons was released, along with Mecole Hardman, and I assumed Christian Welch would make the roster due to his consistency over Simmons, who has the talent, speed, and physical traits but hasn't translated well in the NFL, starting well in camp but lacking Consistency. In the preseason, I'm surprised Christian Welch didn't make it, showing the Packers' confidence in Tyron Hopper as the fourth linebacker, who looked really good in the preseason as a third-round pick from last year, making the Packers comfortable with him if injuries occur. For defensive backs at cornerback, we have Nate Hobbs, Kyseian Nixon, Carrington Valentine, Bo Melton, Keenel Haddon, and Micah Robinson, with Bo Melton's switch from wide receiver to cornerback being pretty cool, showing his ability to beat out career cornerbacks. And the Packers noted his potential quarterback abilities, allowing him to act as a versatile chess piece, who could technically play receiver in a worst-case scenario. Released players include Kalen King, Corey Valentine, and Tyron Herring, with surprise that Kalen King, a seventh-rounder last year who played well in the final preseason game, got released over Keenel Haddon. Nate Hobbs has no injury designation, so he should be good to start the season. As safety, we have Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, Zane Anderson, and Kenton Oladapo, with Omar Brown on injured reserve and Jonathan Baldwin and Jalen Simpson released, which makes sense with no major surprises. Finally, for special teams, we have Brandon McManus, Daniel Whelan, and Matt Orza, with Mark Megnum released. That is the Packers' 53-man roster.